We are recording. Hello, Stephanie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So did you get your meditation in today?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how many hours did you do this time?
Normally I do about an hour, but today I did 20 minutes because I was in a rush. I had to go to the grocery store and grab a
Oh,
few things. So I had to cut it short, but I did go for a good long walk out in the park, in the forest, which was good. What about you? Did you get a medi in?
I got a great meditation in, like really severe meditation, but I also did actually, it's interesting. I know we've talked about, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. I've been doing the trauma release exercises. And
Cool.
sometimes my body automatically, so when I do, I usually kind of do some yoga stretching before I kind of get into my meditation. So I kind of just stretch out because the body is just so stiff. And so I kind of started doing those, and my body automatically either needs it or doesn't need it. It just lets me know.
Yes.
So I just went into let it go. And for, I don't know, probably an hour, my body just kind of went back and forth between relaxation, tremoring. So it was fantastic. So I had just a nice release. I can just feel my body so relaxed now. So I'm like good to go. Like it's fantastic.
Cool. So, and where did you learn how to do that?
Actually, you know what? I found that on the internet. It was really interesting. Who was I listening to? Actually, it was David Gotti being so tight and really, really stiff all the time. And I was listening to that and going, God, that just sounds like my body. And he was talking about, because of all the stress he was under, for years and years and years, and especially in his childhood, people who grow up with, kind of chaotic and really fearful childhoods, the body just holds all that tension.
For
So
sure.
he was talking about the psoas muscle, right? He went to somebody, he says, you got to stretch out that psoas muscles. And he will stretch, like he stretches for at least 2 hours, hour
Yeah.
to 2 hours a day. Like that's part of his regimen. I mean, obviously he does all those crazy runs that he does every day, but he was talking about the psoas muscle. And I was like, wow, it just kind of dawned on me. When you listen to something and you kind of get that spark and it's like, yeah, that makes sense. And it's like, yeah. So I started listening to that. And then I was looking for psoas stretches. And then this came up. It was like, the tray, they call it trauma release or tension release exercising, whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of listening to it and it's like, that's so basic and so simple. And so I thought I'd try it. And then, man, that stuff really, I mean, my body loves it. Like my body just loves any type of body work anyway. So, but
Which is good. Uh, yeah, so I'm actually a trauma sensitive yoga instructor, and that was one of the components that we were taught was how to do the TRE trauma release exercises. And I've read a few books on that, like the actual research behind it. And the main players, I think, in regards to that info was Peter Levine and Dr. Van der Besselkoek. He wrote The Body Keeps Score. It's a phenomenal book if anyone wants to read more information about, you talked about that psoas muscle, and it's also linked to the 10th cranial nerve in the brain that wraps all the way down our spine and attaches to that psoas. It's also the kind of the main nerve that kind of governs our facial muscles as well. So and there's also Stephen Porges. He had done quite a bit of that research too, because I think it goes back to our actual physiology. And if we compare it to animals about that fight, flight, freeze, when the animal is, let's say, for example, a lion goes to attack a deer, and the lion grabs a hold of the deer, and the deer's just about to die. What happens is if the lion were to kind of divert its attention and take off, and that deer is still alive, it will actually jump back up again, and then we'll start to shake. And that's kind of how that research kind of started in regards to what animals do to release trauma right away. So when they have a traumatic incident, they'll actually shake it out of their body. And that's kind of a bit of the basis of that
that's pretty
theory.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I think for the most part, we tend to forget that we're still in an animal body.
For sure.
Yeah, like we just kind of forget that altogether. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we're spiritual beings. We're kind of just stuck in this meat suit that we have, but this meat suit is still very much an animal body. You know what I mean? So it always kind of baffles me, and we forget about that because we should have this. We had basically a lot of the same systems that the other animals do. But how did you get involved in that, anyways?
Well, just based on my own research, my own traumatic experience, childhood adversity, that I kind of been on this mission about trying to find alternative answers to different healing modalities. And also I'm a first responder, police officer, have been for about 21 years. And about 10 years ago, probably 11 now, I had a really rough time, and I experienced some mental health issues, and that's how I got into. I was always doing yoga for many years, but to get into the trauma release exercises, it was because I had some mental health issues, and then I got into that as one of my healing components, and I found it was really effective. It really helped a lot. I try to stretch. I'm not like as good as Dave, but I try to do at least a half an hour almost every day, because I'll start to stiffen up really easy. But it makes
Wow.
such a huge difference when you're kind of, you know, exactly like Dr. Van der Vesselkoek's book, The Body Keeps Score. If anybody wants to do more research on that, you know, how we do store that and how effective it is to kind of practice these breathing techniques, incorporated with the stretches, how we can release trauma from within the body.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a fantastic, I mean, I highly recommend it too as well. So was it, so basically a lot of it was, you kind of started your journey basically before you got into the police department, right? Is that how it kind of goes? You started kind of
Yeah,
working
I
for
was,
yourself,
yep,
and then just with the craziness of your job
yeah.
and just the, I mean, I can only imagine the craziness of what you've seen and what you've witnessed and, you know, over being, how, 20 years?
20, I'm in my 21st year, so
Well,
yeah.
21st year, like that's got to be crazy. I mean, that can definitely affect anybody. Just seeing, witnessing that.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I actually I specialized in traffic fatalities. I was in the traffic division for many years, at a large municipal police agency, and I investigated traffic fatalities for many years. Anybody who was near death or involved in a car crash that was quite serious or life-threatening, I was there. So I was around, you know, lots of trauma visually,
yeah,
as well as, you know, going through my own adversity from, you know, childhood trauma and stuff that I went through in my teens, and struggling from other different things that I went through.
yeah. I mean, did you find that it just triggered more of it, like, you know, the deep-seated stuff from childhood, and then basically it just kind of came to a precipice where it's like, okay, shit, this is just enough. I need to kind of figure this out and get some help.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually, in my teens, I had an eating disorder, and I struggled with some depression in my early 20s. But I had I went to therapy to kind of deal with all of that stuff. So I sorted all of that stuff out, and
Yeah,
then I became a police officer. And then what happened was I found that, you know, 10 years in, you know, being immersed in daily suffering and trauma and seeing other people's stuff, yeah, stuff started to surface again. And that's kind of, you know, uh, I think one component that contributed to the overall effect of the mental health, for sure, without a doubt. Because if you look at the contributing factors to mental health, the four main contributing factors are childhood adversity,
yeah,
biological component, like what do your parents give you genetically, what are we predisposed for, and the social, our social network, are we around a good group of people or support, like this is really, that is one of the main factors as well. And the most important to me is our mindset, how we perceive and look at life in general. So all
yeah,
of those factors combined are pretty much a breeding ground for mental illness. And if we're not balanced in all of those areas, stuff will happen. It will affect us. It will affect the body. It affects the mind. And again, like I said, being immersed in daily suffering and trauma, it has an effect on the human psyche. It has an effect on the spirit, for sure.
yeah. Like that's so interesting. I'm not a police officer, but it's interesting enough, like just witnessing stuff like that. And it's interesting. I grew up, I had a stepfather who was a funeral director. So at a very early age, I didn't think about it now, but when you kind of talk about it like that, I was around death for years, constantly seeing, and I didn't really see the mangled bodies, but I did see the bodies coming in.
Yeah.
And it really gives you an eye opener to what it was. You know, I remember doing removals from people's homes when I was 15 years old, you know, with my stepdad, going into somebody's place that's, you know, that has been passed away and stuff like that, and
Right.
seeing their body that's been there for a few days. Like that stuff, you know, I never realized how much that stuff stuck with me
Yeah.
over the years, seeing that constantly, you know, day after day, day after day. And it wasn't all the time, but I mean, it was quite frequent anyway. So I could definitely see that. But one of the things, you know, you talked about all these different pillars and stuff like that, but how does spirituality play into all this too as well? Because I know myself, I think that was a lot of the missing things was, you know, kind of my search for wholeness. Like, how was that, you know, how was that kind of play into your type of your journey?
Well, you know, right from a young age, I was always on a mission to find the truth and seek the truth and
Yeah.
know reality. And I think when I was immersed in like seeing those traffic fatalities, and I would see like innocent people dying or suffering, like I watched a 5-year-old girl die, like that really affected me,
Oh,
you
sure.
know, and I was kind of angry, you know, at God and like, why would you take her life? And because, you know, an innocent child. So it's interesting how we have to think of it in a higher perspective. You know, maybe there was a purpose for her dying. Like I would like to think that something good came out of that, even though it was so devastating. But if we look at other serious things that have happened, like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, that mother lost her child, and then she ended up creating Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and that's, you know, very, very huge organization that helps to make shift change happen in the community. So I think there's a hierarchy, and I like it's easy to get sucked up and to think, oh my God, the world's so unfair, but we have to look at it in a bigger perspective because it has that capability of eating away at us. Like
Yeah.
it's, you know what I mean? If you're trying to kind of figure out the answers, it's really hard. I know for a fact though that we're benevolent beings. We're not meant to be immersed in daily suffering and trauma. And I think everything that we do has to gear towards an outcome, being it if we're all shifting towards benevolency or a greater purpose. And to me, my whole journey was all about how I can evolve myself and then how I can contribute back to help to have a life of service, which I do now, because to me, that's the most powerful thing that you could do, is to contribute back to society somehow to help other people.
Yeah, I think I mean, that's the key. And that was some of the reasons why I kind of started doing this podcast, was just to kind of give back some of the information that I've learned over the years that's helped me and help other people. And I thought if I can just bring the right people on the show and, you know, that can maybe help them out, because you know, there might be a few people listening. And if I always say, if I can just reach one, sure, I'd like to have, you know, thousands of people listening and millions of viewers and all that stuff. But if I figure at the end of the day, if I could just help someone, just one person on their daily life to kind of get that information, go, oh yeah, you know what, that makes sense. Maybe I'll look into that. And that
Yep.
can start them on their healing journey. Then that's what it's all about. Like, I mean, it's kind of what I live for in some ways.
Well, I think, yeah, I agree. I think with adversity and trauma, because we've had conversations before about this, but I think people have choices in regards to, you either let the trauma consume you or you grow and evolve from it.
Yeah.
And you literally are faced with choices, and it's up to you to make those choices about how you perceive that trauma. You either let it have an effect on you, or you grow and evolve, you move forward, and then that's when you can be of service to other people, to help other people.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think one of the biggest problems I've seen, and I think a lot of people too, maybe though, it's just when you're in your shit, when you're in the muck of it, you know what I mean? When you're in that, it's just hard to get that clarity to kind of see what it is. And I think also too is that it's a self-learning process. There's not a lot of, I mean, there's information out there. I think that's one of the great things about this particular age. There's a lot of information out there and a lot of self-help people and a lot of different therapies you can go, but there's really nobody kind of like saying, okay, this is what you need to kind of do. You kind of have to figure it out on your own, and you kind of
Right.
get lost in it. And sometimes it's not always the best way, but eventually sometimes, you know, if you just kind of keep with it, you'll eventually find the clearer path and a little more light in your life. Is that what you found yourself?
Yeah, and that's, you know, I couldn't explain a lot of things, and I'm like, okay, why, you know, why do bad things happen to good people? And, you know, and sometimes when you see bad people doing things, nothing happens to them. So I think trying to figure it all out is really, it's confusing, and I think it sucks a lot of energy from ourselves. So, of course, I turned to meditation, and I think it was one of the single-handed most powerful things for me that helped me to evolve and grow. And I know for you too, that you find it very beneficial. I think that's one modality. I think there's many different things that people can do to kind of realign and get connected and to help sort out their stuff so they can have a more fulfilling life find more peace and to find more happiness in their life.
So if I was to ask you, so pretend like I don't know anything about meditation. So if I was to ask you, it's like, okay, what is this whole thing about meditation? How's it going to really help me?
Well, I think, well, there's a lot of science, right? So for mindfulness, practicing mindfulness, a lot of people think that, you know, you're going to have to go get a burlap outfit, shave your head and change your religion, but it's not like that at all. Yes, it can be used for spiritual practices. And I think there's tons of different cultures that use it as a spiritual modality, but there's enough research for mindfulness, which actually, you know, changes the way you think and the way you perceive the world. So for my personal journey, I tried so many different things. There's different stages of evolution, right? So, you know, 20 years ago, I didn't do the same things that I do now because I had to process different emotions like anger and bitterness. And so there's different stages of evolution and the different types of meditation and mindfulness that one can potentially look at. So as I started kind of, you know, dealing with stuff in my own life, then I started looking at different types of meditation. And one of my favorite is Joe Dispenza. He's awesome.
Yes, love that guy. Shout out to me, Dr. Joe there, if you're listening.
Yeah. His.
Okay, but I got to ask you, okay,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Joe. I love his work.
Yeah.
He's got so many meditations out there now. And I mean, I absolutely love it. Is there one particular one that you're listening to right now that's it's like, okay, this is the bomb?
Well, I love his, I ended up buying his whole party pack thing there. I love the Collide.
Well, there goes your paycheck there. Yeah.
Exactly.
So you just put Dr. Joe's grandkids through college.
I wonder why I'm always like strapped for cash, but Joe's got all my money. That's why.
I think, yeah, I should get a discount. So next time he has an advanced weekend.
Yeah. So I'm at a stage where, you know, I'm kind of experimenting with how I can make good things happen. So attract, like we talk about manifestation or the law of attraction. So I'm at a point where, okay, how can I kind of use this to benefit myself, to have, you know, more abundance in the sense of better relationships, more fulfillment, you know, abundance on all levels. We're not just talking about financial stuff, but his kaleidoscope meditation is really, really good. So, and there's tons of free stuff on YouTube for anybody who wants to go look, but kaleidoscope, literally you just watch a kaleidoscope for about 7-8 minutes. Okay. And then you see a 3-minute mind movie. Yeah. Mind movie. And you can pick, you know, love and relationships. You can pick money, attract money. You can pick health. And what it kind of does is it helps to pre-program your brain. So you're kind of releasing different hormones, and it triggers the pineal gland. And then you see another, so it's about 7-8 minutes kaleidoscope, 3 minutes of the mind movie, and then another couple of minutes of the kaleidoscope. So it kind of, you know, you end up shifting your thoughts about it, change your mindset, and then you embody that feeling of what you want to become.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you know what? It is really good because I remember you hooked me onto that. Oh, geez, was it last year? And it's interesting enough, you know, I feel so much, I think you're like my twin, like you're like my female twin there in some ways. And it's like, I kind of got away from it because I kind of got stuck in some things and trying to get things organized. And then it's like, when you get back into it, it's like, I kind of miss that.
Yeah.
And I watched it this morning. I had a little bit of time. I'm going to watch it this morning. So instead of watching his mind movie, I mean, I did the kaleidoscope, and those actually kaleidoscopes I found were more powerful than just the regular general kaleidoscopes you would see on a regular YouTube and stuff like that. I thought this was way more I really got connected to it. And then I just used my own mind movie because that's kind of what I want to see. But I just know that I have to kind of practice. And it is really, it's consistency. I think that's the big thing. It's consistency to just kind of rewire the brain. So how'd you get like hooked up with Joe? Like you just basically you just through research and kind of like found his book, or were you one of these people like me, like years ago, found him on like What to Bleep and that's how you found him?
Well, you know what, listen, I've been on this journey for, I don't know, 40. Oh, did I just reveal my age?
I think you just did.
It's more.
That's okay.
Closer to the big 50. But anyway, I have read so many of those types of books over the year. I can't say for sure when I remember first meeting him, but I know that I was into Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden, and he just happened to be one of the ones that, because I was always seeking like people who were like professionals who were like either doctors or scientists or biologists, like Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden. I wanted those people who had kind of that spiritual flair to them, because I was seeking such a deeper meaning and more questions that a lot of, Western practitioners couldn't answer. So, and I know you do the same, right? So I have his Becoming Supernatural probably was my favorite book of his that I bought.
Put that right back here. Yeah.
I got the audio book because when I was taking the train into work every day, I would listen to like so many different audio books.
Is it him that's narrating or somebody else?
Oh God, I can't even remember. I've listened to so much of his stuff, I can't remember. I can look it up.
No, it's okay. We'll go just figure it out. But yeah, because that's one thing I kind of like and don't like, depending on who the person is and their voice. Like I don't mind listening to Dr. Joe's voice and stuff like that. So when he reads it, I mean, it makes sense because you're listening to him. It's almost like a lecture in some ways. But if you have somebody else who does voiceover to it, it just doesn't seem the same. Like it doesn't have that feel, that vibration. Because if you watch one of his lectures, depending on, what part of it, like you just feel that passion, that knowledge that like he lives, kind of breathes and,
Yeah, for sure. I've listened to him so much on YouTube that I can't, what, I don't know if I wanted to talk about that perineum muscle contraction. Like, have you tried that yet while you're
the breath work?
Yeah, but it's also, squeezing the perineum
I have.
And drawing that.
Yeah, it's really good. I notice it myself. I can feel where I'm stuck in my body.
Yeah.
And that's one of the
things. You
things.
want to explain it first?
So basically, the idea with Dr. Joe is that we have this kind of prana tube. We have this light tube that goes from, the lower centers from basically our root chakra. And that's basically where for us guys, it's where your meat and two veg are. And then basically it moves all the way up all your centers. So we have 7 energy centers, he likes to call them, or they're called chakras, if for those people who are into the know. Either way, you can, he likes to use more contemporary because less people get little woo-woo from chakras. And each basically spiritual center, or each basically energy center contains a neural plexus and an organ and a hormone center. So they kind of have these things. So the idea is you're going to raise the energy center, raise the energy from the lower center, because it has all that energy in there, where we call it the base, whether you call it your Kundalini energy. So you want to move that all the way up into the heart, and then from the heart into the pineal gland.
Right.
And that's where you have those mystical experiences. And then you create this, I believe it's a torsion field that actually pulls the energy down from basically the divine, pulls it into the body. And that's where the magic happens, basically what he says. It's kind of, now I've really dumbed this down, and I mean, I may have missed a few things, but the idea and the science behind it, like he has a lot of research, and that's the great thing about him, is he does not just like the woo woo. It's like, but it actually works. He's got the science to back it up. And that's one of the great things about it. But the idea is to move that energy into the heart center. Excuse me.
Yes. Yeah. And he's actually, I remember hearing him say too, I think he's actually kind of looked at over 8,000 different brain scans of people who have been practicing his type of meditations. And they've really been very effective. I think his mini series is called Rewired on Gaia TV, which I have a subscription for.
Little shout out to them.
Yeah. We're not being paid to market this guy.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, this is the thing. There is no marketing whatsoever. It's just that I think for the most people who are just getting into their awakening and their spirituality and their healing journey, it's probably one of the best. His information it really bridges the gap. It's really research based, but there is that kind of that missing element that I think everybody's looking for, is that wholeness, that connection to their divine, and however they describe their own divine. But I think that's what it's missing. So it's a really nice balance between the two. And I mean, his seminars are always being sold out. Like, it's just crazy. So so if you guys are really interesting, once I post this, I'll provide some links to that, and hopefully Stephanie will send me those links to those books too as well. But yeah, it's just part of the healing journey,
So yeah, for sure. I want to touch on another organization called Heart Math Institute. I'm sure you heard of them. They've done a lot of, they've done a lot of research in regards to synchronizing the brain and the heart. We now know that there's a magnetic it's science-based now. Like they've got enough research now to actually say that we do have that energetic field around us. And when you synchronize your brain waves with your heart waves, that's when you can kind of have, you know, a better heart rate variability. I actually went and bought their little monitor thing. I think it was about 300 or something, and you kind of hook it up to yourself and it will tell you what your pattern is. And it, you know, it's interesting because I think, oh, I'm in meditation, I'm totally in alignment. But meanwhile, I'd have like my wave, the graph would be all jagged, and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
it
So,
happens so many times.
but one technique that they actually teach is to focus and kind of visualize that you're breathing in through your heart center. And when you do that, that is one technique to kind of help with that, synchronizing your heart rate variability. And apparently that's the key to manifesting the type of life that you actually want. So
Now, I just got a question of that. Do you guys practice heart math at work?
So I teach meditation, mindfulness. I actually was the first police officer to introduce mindfulness about 7 years ago, because I just saw how it affected my life and how I started changing. And I really, really wanted to help people. I really wanted to show them the benefits. So I introduced it. So yes, and we just actually launched mindfulness within the entire organization, and I'm just over the moon about that, because now it's
Wow.
available to anybody who wants to tap into that
Yeah.
basic breathing techniques to kind of regulate, you know, your systems, and to counterbalance the fight, flight, freeze, and put your body into the parasympathetic, right? We constantly want to balance that out, and we want to be aware of when we're triggering that, because so many times we go about our day, we're not even realizing. I don't think a lot of people know the average amount of times that the average person triggers fight, flight, freeze. That stress response per day is about 50 times per day. And that's per
Wow.
Dr. Lisa Rankin, Mind Over Medicine. She has that in her book where she says that. Can you imagine triggering fight,
50
flight, freeze
times.
50 times a day, right? Being at traffic, emails,
Oh
and
my God. Yeah, of course. That
yeah,
makes total sense. Like, I mean, it's almost it's like that's just that seems way too high. Like 50 times a day.
yeah.
Now, is this basically a North American problem, or is it more of a global thing now
I
that
would
she did her
say,
research?
I don't know for sure. I'm assuming it's more North American, because we have different demands on us.
Oh my
Um,
God. Yeah.
you got to think about, you know, we're so overworked, and you know, like everybody's kind of struggling trying to, especially with COVID. Can you imagine what COVID's doing? But a lot of people don't understand either that feeling emotions like anger or fear can also potentially trigger the stress response within our body. So you got to think of the hormonal concoction that's being secreted into the bloodstream when we're stressed out versus when we're happy and we feel good. Totally
Yeah.
different hormonal chemical concoction. And that you can also, if anybody wants to read more, Dr. Bruce Lipton, he talks about that epigenetics, and you know, how we actually have control of what are regulating our internal systems, and the chemical concoction that we're secreting into our bloodstream.
So it's basically, learning to self-regulate too as well. And this is another thing I was looking at too as well. I was looking at one of my favorite beverages, coffee and caffeine,
Yeah. Oh,
and
do you want to
how
talk about this?
basically what it does, it just kind of does that same thing, is it automatically triggers that kind of flight response, the adrenaline in the body. And it's like, I love my coffee, and I've been struggling to get off it. So I've been like, 5 days on, 1 day on, just to see how it is. And I know there's a big difference in my body, in my relaxation state, when I don't have coffee. Like, I feel a hell of a lot better. I sleep better. I'm not as agitated or, aggressive. And then if you're already aggressive and kind of agitated already for the stress, it's just like adding fuel to the fire. You're just kind of jacking yourself up. But
Yeah.
then you kind of get in that idea where it's like, I need my caffeine in the morning because you've just been so stressed. The adrenals are just tapped out. You kind
Yeah.
of need that fix to kind of get it stimulated, and you're kind of getting that feedback loop. And if anybody's listening out there, I would love you guys to go and try, at least if you would like to try 5 days with no caffeine. So no like coffee, no green tea,
Yeah.
no Red Bulls,
No
no
chocolate.
no chocolate. Yeah. Oh my God, I love chocolate too. Well,
Forget
and
it.
yeah, you know, see, the good thing about chocolate is that it has lots of sugar in it. So I try not to avoid the sugar because I know that helps out too. But yeah, chocolate, anything caffeine, but yeah, that
Yeah.
could be a real pain in the ass. So, but I did break down today. I have to admit, I did have just a half a cup. So I basically diluted it with some dandelion tea. So I kind of just wanted to see how it affects me. But yeah, I know that it'll be eventually. It's like, forget it. It's just not worth it anymore.
Well, it's interesting you talk about that because I really enjoy coffee. I don't know if I necessarily need the fix every day, but I definitely, really enjoy it. And I did go off it for a couple of weeks and I felt amazing.
Yeah,
Totally different shift in energy for sure, but I try to have no more than one a day.
well, that's the thing. It's like maybe it's just my age too as well. I mean, because I'm up there. I would say
I
my
thought you were just
actual.
like 35
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
with your silver tips.
Yeah, my silver tips. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think what it is just it's the good lighting right now. It's
yeah.
making me look a little here. It's kind of washing me out. It's like when when people take those selfies, and it's like you're really old, but it just looks like this so whitewashed, like you're just trying to hide every wrinkle. But yeah, I mean it's one of those interesting beverages. If people see me drinking, this is an herbal concoction. This is Chinese medicine that our good friend An Wei gave me. So she's helping
Yeah,
me.
she's great.
Yeah, she's got me all hooked up here. So I got to have that during the day.
I have a couple of her concoctions too.
Yeah, they're pretty powerful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm growing a third toe. Actually, I'm just kidding. Wait, if you're listening, no, I didn't mean to. But yeah, I mean, her herbal medicines, her Chinese medicines are, and she's so good with it too. Like she's just so intuitive when it comes to that stuff. Like she just knows. She's just gonna look at you and go, "Okay, you need this." Like, how do you know that? Like, okay, she just knows.
You're gonna have to interview her now.
Well, actually, we had scheduled, but she's got holidays and you got the kids home and everything else. So it doesn't go. But yeah, the new year, we're definitely going to have her on and we're going to talk all things Chinese medicine. So stay tuned for that if you're really interested in learning about that, because it's some powerful stuff. I love Chinese medicine. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. I do acupuncture, um, and we have our mutual friend, Dr. Lana Marconi, who has her own
Oh
clinic
yeah,
in
that too.
Oakville.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Yes, a little shout out to, it's interesting enough. I've shouted out to Lana Marconi out a few times on my podcast. So I
Yeah.
think maybe she should start reimbursing me for all this advertising.
We're gonna have to start getting money from Joe and
Joe, I know it's just, I know it's just like, this way I knew this podcast was going to pay off, eventually, but yeah, like she's phenomenal. I love her technique, and yeah, I remember so many times she's used me as a human guinea pig, and I just love, I mean, my body just I just love body work in general. So whether it's energy work, needles, yoga, all that stuff. I mean, I'm a big fan of it. Do you have one thing that's your favorite? Do you have like a favorite, like if you're like, say one modality?
uh, well, actually, I do have one thing that I absolutely love that because I love sharing stuff that people can do. And it might be a little bit out there for people, but some people are totally on board with it, is energy medicine. Um, Based on Donna Eden. If
Oh yeah.
anybody knows her, she's married to a psychologist, David Feifenstein. They've written numerous books. She's got a 5-minute energy routine because, we have to take into consideration that we're energetic beings, right? So, if we're taking care of the body now, we've been taking care of our mind with meditation, we eat healthy, all of those components, but our energy, dealing with our energetic field is kind of not even thought about because a lot of people don't even believe that we're energetic beings. So I actually do her routine almost every single day, and I notice a huge difference when I don't. She's got a 5-minute thing. She actually, a very gifted woman. She's probably, I think she's about 75 years old now ish, around between 70 to 80 years old, but she's got a huge following. I've been following her for years and I've watched her grow. She's pretty well known, world renowned now. And she actually is one of the few people in the world that can actually see the entire energetic systems with her naked eye. Like she can see our aura, the different colors coming
So
up.
she's
But
highly clairvoyant.
Oh yeah, for sure. But if you actually talk about the meridian system, you know how, ancient Chinese practices, they date back and they talk about the meridian systems linking to the pathways to the organ systems. We're talking about Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
She actually sees those energies. She sees the meridian systems on her body. She sees how our energy moves and figure eights. So she kind of developed these different things. One day she actually had, I think she had multiple sclerosis, if I'm correct.
Oh, wow.
I apologize if I'm wrong, but what she did was she noticed that her energies were off. So she started like touching different pressure points on her body. And that's kind of how she got into it. And she was able to heal herself. She had a whole bunch of problems. And now she teaches her method to people. There's different things like simple stuff like just rubbing different pressure points on your body. Because our hands are conductors for energy, right? So it's literally kind of, shaking that energy out. And then we can do this 5-minute routine where we're hooking up, touching different pressure points in unison.
All right, Steph, I'm going to ask you to do it. Okay, you have to get. Well, okay, you can. Yeah. So we're going because I'm launching in 2 platforms. So for those who are watching this, you can go over to my YouTube page. Okay. But yeah, so just give us a Cole's note. If you don't want to do it, okay, I'm not going to try to pressure into it. But yeah, well, I mean, you're talking.
I only dressed up from the waist down. I mean, I got my pants on, but.
Okay, we'll have to wait to the my other YouTube channel there.
One thing I do have that you can't see on camera is I have a mini trampoline. So
okay, rebounder?
Rebounder. And I think it was Dr. Peter Levine who actually talks about the benefits of secreting happy hormones when you bounce on a mini trampoline. It's quite fun. So I do my energetics while I'm bouncing on the treadmill. I try to do that every single day because it actually makes me feel really good. It just kind of brings me almost to like a childlike state because it's so fun. And I do about 10-15 minutes. I do my little hookups with my different energy points, and it's good.
Yeah.
If anybody wants, go research Donna Eden. There's a 5-minute free energy routine that you can do daily on YouTube. Just go and search her, and it's good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love energy work. I'm a Reiki guy, so I mean, I love anything Reiki and energy. That's probably the thing. That's like my happy place. If normally I'm the one usually giving Reiki, but when I get on a table and you got a really good person who's got good Reiki, I'm in my happy zone. Like I'm all smiles and giggles.
Well, so talk about your Reiki. What level are you?
Well, I'm a master, so I do teach. Yes, master. I don't know. I see things. I don't like the word master. I like Reiki teacher, right? Because master, it's kind of like, how do I master something that's so omnipotent and so beyond who I am to master it? Yeah. Like that's what's always kind of like, well, people, I'm a Reiki master. Well, I usually kind of say I'm a Reiki teacher. So I teach level. So I can attune people. Yeah. Mastering it, I haven't hit that level of consciousness yet to be able to facilitate and master that type of energy.
Well, it's interesting because I think when you become more spiritual, that your entire life is all about learning, constant learning and evolving, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, really effective. Where some people are like, well, I already know everything. I don't need to learn anything else. So.
Oh my God! If I had the finances, I love school. I'd be taking courses out my wazoo. I mean, I would just be like, I'd be like going here, traveling there. I love learning stuff. And I think now as I get older, I find that is more and more important than the regular kind of day-to-day stuff. That for me anyways.
Well, I want to actually, if you don't mind, I would love to just kind of share some stats because I've done.
You got some stats there. Look at you did a little homework for me.
Yeah, I got some stats.
All right, let's hear those stats.
Yeah, I've done so much research over the years, and just little tidbits of info that I love to share, just like simple things. And
oh, perfect. Because you do a lot of speaking too as well, right? You do a lot of presentations. Yeah. Like you do a lot of like guest speaking, stuff like that. And it's not just through your work, but it's just in general, people are looking for, somebody who's with your qualifications and background too as well. So for those listening, let's hear those stats there for us, Steph.
Yeah, for sure. So again, I'm going to talk about Dr. Lisa Rankin. She's a medical doctor based on her book, Mind Over Medicine. She also talks about optimistic people live 10 times longer than pessimistic people. So it pays to kind of shift your attitude and your beliefs. Another thing too, when I talked about those contributing factors to mental illness, And I talked about that social setting and having, support, a good support network. Well, feeling loneliness is just as lethal as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
So the effect of, being alone. So again, I already mentioned that we're benevolent beings, but we're also very social beings. We have to be around humans. We need that healthy social setting. We need good friends. So this other statistic I got from watching the coronavirus on Netflix, it was a documentary that they talked about.
Okay.
It says the mortality reduction, so kind of saving some years of life. Some research shows that volunteering is, if not equal to, if not better than exercising 4 times a week. So if you go and help people, you go and volunteer with 2 different organizations, the effectiveness is quite similar to exercising 4 times a week. Pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, like I mean, volunteering is. I think it's a great. That was one of the things I've heard over the years, especially if you're suffering from like depression or anything else like that, and
Yeah,
you're feeling kind of blasé, go help
right.
somebody else. Because you know what? I've always heard this term. It's like somebody always has it worse than you do.
Oh, you know what? And I agree. That's a really, so, and I think too, us North Americans, I think, a very privileged society we have all the means for survival. There's a lot of people around the world who are just barely surviving, right?
Yeah,
And we have, to me, we have a lot of luxury.
yeah,
And I think that we're very, we're very established. We have our house, our basic survival needs are met. So I think that if we kind of shift our perspective in regards to that, we are very fortunate to be here in North America, to have the opportunities that we have. I think it's really effective. But that helper's high, volunteering, connection, contribution, like Brene Brown, she talks about that. But helper's high, it literally triggers that the brain reward system. So, and it helps their levels of cortisol. So it kind of helps you to reduce your stress, and it kind of counterbalances that fight, flight, freeze. So go
I think
help
that's
them.
fantastic. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's. I mean, it's so important. I think really nowadays too, as well, just to kind of give back. And it doesn't have to be in the biggest way. And actually, it's interesting. I had a gentleman on. I don't know if you know him, Bante Saranapala. If I get that
Yeah,
correct?
I know very well.
Yes. Well, we talked. He was so gracious to come on my podcast, and he talked about that. And it's just the simplest thing.
Yeah.
He told me just like little simple things, like simple things, just even a smile, like even a smile to somebody. Like it's so weird. Like nowadays, like when somebody smiles at you, they kind of look at you and
You're like,
go,
what the?
"Do I know you? Like,
What's
what are you
wrong with that
smiling at?
person?
Look at you. What are you, creep? Like, what are you doing smiling at me?" It's just it's like, hey, I'm just smiling and recognize you as a fellow human being in this, crazy world that we are. And so I just thought I'd smile and say, hey. But yeah,
Well, a lot of people think too that I've been tithing my money for many years too. I help out with United Way and different organizations. But a lot of people say, well, I don't have money. How am I going to help other people? Well, it's not necessarily about giving from your pocket. It's about giving your time, giving, maybe you have something that your expertise or something that you're really good at that other people aren't. So it's kind of helping out in other ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be money. So
yeah.
I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's like like you said, it's so if you have like a skill set, or anything like that can help out an
Yeah.
organization. I know myself, I had one of my skill set is the ability to get products for donations for I was working with through our good friend Tanya Kohler. I
Yeah.
was working with the Children's Aid Foundation here locally and helping them get some prizes available for their auction for all those little kids and
Awesome.
stuff like that. So yeah, like it's just little small things. I mean, I had to use all my contacts from all the years of working in the industry there, and it's nice. So if you do have a certain job or a certain ability, doesn't have to be money. Go out and volunteer. There's a lot of organizations, a lot of people that need help, especially now, even here in North
Yeah,
America, really need some help.
for
Please
sure.
do. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And going back to Bante, I've been on stage with him a couple of times for his kindfulness symposium that he has once a year. Unfortunately, he had to cancel it. But when he said that about smiling, I have another research piece of tidbit here.
Please. Educate us, please.
So this is based on an article I came across from getpocket.com. Based on some neuroscience research, doing this one thing makes you just as happy as eating 2,000 chocolate bars. And it also gives you the same neurological boost as receiving $25,000. And that is a smile.
No way.
Yeah. So, and some research further in that article also says that, you know, sometimes even if you're not feeling happy, it's to kind of smile anyway, like fake it till you make it, because so.
Or you can just listen to our podcast with Stephanie Nassis and Michael Philpott, weekdays.
So,
here.
Well, you've seen someone laugh and you don't know what they're laughing about, and then you start laughing. Like I've done this on the GO train. You kind of see other people in a conversation and they're laughing, and then you just start laughing even though you don't know what they're laughing about.
Yeah, it's just, you get that giggles, and I think it's it's so important. Wow, that's an interesting stat. I must be rich then. If I'm always giggling and laughing all the time. You know, maybe it's just you. I think it's your energy. It's your energy. That's why I'm giggling and smiling all the time.
Maybe it's both of ours combined. Well, if you want to smile more, and this is interesting because I didn't really feel like bouts of euphoria, happiness, joy, bliss until I started mindfulness and meditation on a regular basis. Like that really changed my life, where I just naturally gravitated towards feeling better. Whereas before, I would say that, you know, I probably was on the lower end of where my emotional state was, right? Just kind of getting by emotionally, not really feeling a sense of happiness or satisfaction. It was just more, you know, oh, you got to go into work and you got to do what you have to do, and just doing your daily routine, right? There's no sense of satisfaction, but
the zombie. The walking zombie, like all of us, you know, you get into that routine. You get into that whole routine of just being a zombie. You wake up, grab something to eat, go to work, hate your work, come home. Not all of us hate our work, but, you know, for the most part. And then you just come home and do the same thing, you know, rinse and repeat again. And it's the same thing all over again. And that's it. Yeah. Well, Stephanie, you know what? We're almost out of time.
One more.
One more? Okay, please. All right, let's get that one last stat in. Okay, all right.
Because this is important, because when I started teaching, and I would get up and talk to like tons of people, and, you know, I would talk about stress and the effects, but I always felt that I would leave them with like a dreary feeling. So.
Okay, give me a little positivity. Okay, end this podcast. All right.
Even if you have, for every major, okay, I'm going to read this, okay? For every major stressful life experience, that financial difficulties or family crisis that can increase the risk of dying by 30%. But it's not true to everyone. People who spent time caring for others, just simply caring for others, showed absolutely no stress-related increase in dying. Okay, and that comes from Kelly McGonigal.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I am the really worst when it comes to, you know, pronouncing people's names. That's why I would just say, you know, first names.
Kelly.
Yeah. Stephanie. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's well thought of. I really appreciate you bringing those stats on too as well. So Stephanie, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you for a speaking gig or anything like that, where can they find you?
Yeah. StephanieNassis.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm on Instagram, and my email info@stephanienassis.com. So
okay, perfect. Yeah, and that's one thing I know you're a highly regarded speaker too as well, and you're well sought off. So if you're looking for an amazing speaker,
thank you.
To have for your symposium or anything like that, highly recommend it. Wealth of knowledge. She lives it, she breathes it. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on my show. We're gonna do this again sometime, a lot sooner, because this is the last time. I think this is when was the last time we talked to each other? It was basically, well, saw each other, I should say, was the summertime. The fish fry.
Fish fry.
Yeah. That was good.
Well, yeah, that was really good. That was really good fish. He's a great cook.
Well, thank you.
Great catch.
Yeah, great.
And I just want to give a shout out to you, because you're just such an awesome human being, and thanks for sharing everything that you're doing. And I think this is amazing, because I think you need to shine a light on what needs to come out so we can help people.
Yeah. I thank you so much on that. I really appreciate that. Well, Miss Stephanie, I'm going to close the show off here. So you've been listening and you've been watching the Metaphysical Mentor podcast with Michael Philpott. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye for now.